why I would not be the person who would write a zoning ordinance. That doesn't really make that much sense to me, but I just needed to address that. I'm trying to think if I missed anything, or I was trying to take notes. Like I said, there was a couple of legal issues, and you know what it comes down to is that because Edgewater is a very unique community, any property that is located at the water has to go through another process, a waterfront development permit. So it's another layer of regulation for those particular properties. So if the DEP does not feel that a developer has a project that meets the DEP guidelines and regulations, they will reject the development permit, and that developer will have to come back here anyway and create a new application. So there's another layer. We're not trying to fly in the face of surrounding communities. The fact is there's traffic on River Road. And whether or not this one property gets developed is not going to impact it so significantly like people think it will. And with that said, everyone keeps asking about a traffic study, but I haven't seen any particular evidence to the contrary. We have I think we have a lot of impassioned people, unfortunately, about the unknown, rather than actually. I don't believe that I made any comments during anyone's.
Please allow Catherine the courtesy we allowed everyone else, please.
You know, through this process, I've been more than open to speaking with people, and no one has reached out to me. My names are on the documents. No one has personally reached out to me to ask me any questions or anything of the nature, and I've tried to address every different comment that was made at every planning board hearing and every council hearing and or meeting, because we actually did not have a hearing. I'm sorry, at the last session. But with that said, I believe that, unfortunately, I don't know that we're going to make any of the residents happy, but I do believe that there's many valid and good reasons for the zoning that we are proposing.
Thank you, Karen.
Who cares about the river?
Mayor, I would just like to comment because a couple of other issues have been raised. What we're here to consider tonight is whether or not this proposed zoning ordinance, which is part now of our master plan review, which has been examined by the planning board and recommended to this governing body for adoption, is in compliance with the municipal land use law. And the process that we have undertaken to introduce it and hold this public meeting requires us to fulfill those requirements that are in the municipal land use law. As the mayor pointed out earlier, this is a decision collectively of the good judgment of the governing body as to what's in the best interest of this borough. We have studied this issue. We have experience with various types of development in this community. We know which developments generate school children. We know which developments don't generate school children. We have examined those issues, and we have considered the benefits of what type of developments increase the view corridors as the residents and the pedestrians and everybody else who comes to the community, what we need to do to enhance those views to the river, which we're all trying to protect. I have reviewed a lot of the legal issues that residents raise about whether or not they have an absolute right to an unobstructed view, and I'm sorry they do not. And the courts have studied that issue. They have studied issues that raise the point of traffic, and you know, as was mentioned, you know, traffic is a fact of life, but we have to look at what is in the best interest of this community. We're looking at the south end of town. It is predominantly a commercial end of town, and that we believe that depending on, you know, if the board concurs with the planning board, that the type of development that is in this ordinance is you know, enhances all of those types of issues that we believe are important. I'm satisfied, having reviewed the process, that we are in compliance with the municipal land use law, and that the governing body would be in a position to act on this ordinance tonight if they chose to do that. We've been studying it now for many, many months. We know what the issues are. We know that there will be opposition to this ordinance. However, relying on our past experiences and our understanding of what this ordinance will accomplish, and with the guidance of our planner and the planning board, we've arrived at a moment that we feel that this ordinance best accommodates the goals and objectives that we are trying to accomplish. So just wanted to say that, despite some of the, the issues raised, I'm satisfied that this ordinance is in compliance with the land use law.
With that being said, can I ask for an introduction?
No traffic study?
Nothing that anybody brought up was.
Do I have a second? Ma'am, please.
What you just said.
I introduced.
Second. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I don't want to get into an area that I'm not, that I have the ability to comment on, but I've asked a lot of questions, and including traffic studies. And basically, you don't do a traffic study for a zoning ordinance change. You do it for specific projects, which we're not proposing any specific projects tonight. I would just like to say in general that I would ask, please, just a little consideration. I represent only the people of Edgewater here tonight. I think we all represent and manage the service and assets of this town. We're concerned about tax reduction and overall concerned about the quality of life. And I will have to note that today is mostly filled with non-Edgewater residents in opposition to this. The few that are in opposition are the few that are here every week, year-round, God bless them, but they object and oppose us on every issue from A to Z.
Shame on you.
So I think that's disingenuous.
Shame on you.
Shame on you to call us disingenuous. Shame on you.
If this continues, I'll ask for a police.
The chief was here, he just came back in.
This is one of the most important things that this body has considered the entire year.
Excuse me, please allow Councilman Henwood to have his time, just like everybody else did.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most important thing we've had on this board this year, and without a doubt. And we have weighed this heavily, and we have looked at everything up and down, including myself, with regard to the benefits of this ordinance change. And I have to say that, it was shown to me very many years ago about the concept of a building like this versus this. And this represents every building south of River Road, south of the border of Edgewater, heading south. When you look left, it's building and building and building. This, without a fact, generates less school people. I can't say scientifically, but I will tell you it generates less police calls as liaison to the police department in town. As a person who drove the ambulance as a volunteer for many years, the buildings and towns have far less ambulance calls because of the demographic of people involved. So in terms of services, in terms of the idea that these developments cost more than they generate is absurd and wrong. This makes sense, and I absolutely support it, and I ask that my fellow council people support it as well. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to hear?
Just where does the height limitations come for the different categories?
What?
The different
The mixed use districts?
No question to be asked.
The mixed use, sorry, what is this? The mixed use districts were based on existing developments that were approved. So there's there's sort of a scale, there's 3 scales, the 5 stories, the 9 stories, and then the 14 stories. So that was based on existing developments. So we tried to retrofit that a little bit into the surrounding areas to sort of make it a much more cohesive type development in that area and promote that pedestrian environment with mixed uses.
But they could always request one below that.
Oh, well, I mean, yes. I mean, obviously, but that's, that is not, That's not something that Edgewater could limit. That's, just part of the municipal land use law. Anyone is entitled to ask for a variance. That's how the municipal land use law is set up. It's just whether or not the board will grant that variance. And it's much harder to grant a variance once a zoning ordinance is just passed, because the burden of proof really becomes much higher after the ordinance has just been passed.
And is there any similar zoning regulations like that on the river?
I'm sorry?
Are there any other developments on the river that have similar limitations?
Similar limitations?
Yeah.
Well, like the,
I think like floor area ratio, I think. The control of.
the height or the floor area ratio? Actually, that was one of the issues, was the floor area ratios that had been approved. There were several zones that didn't even have a floor area ratio requirement. So therefore, we really wanted to put that into the zoning ordinance to be able to limit the bulk and massing of a building. And as you probably also noted, is that there is a bonus that can be given to a developer if they provide affordable housing. So that's a little bit of an incentive for them to provide that affordable housing. So, and in terms of what's existing, there are obviously several high-rises that do exist along the eastern side of River Road. It does exist in town. It's not like it doesn't exist. I know that that was one of the questions that was brought up, I think 2 meetings ago, maybe at the planning board level, about how there were no high-rises on the east side of River Road, but obviously we know that there are a few of them. So this is not out of character. And again, going back to the New Jersey Administrative Code, the intent of that code, as was found in a court case, talked about having a whole bunch of high-rises all close together, and that's not what we're proposing, because we're talking about, we're limited in area to where we're actually rezoning heavy high-rises. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I think it's in some cases too restrictive.
I'm sorry, what's...
I think we can short-change ourselves on some of the buildings we've been higher, we're too responsive to other communities, because they're never going to be responsive to us.
Oh, and actually, you know what? I would also like to comment. One of the residents said, green roof only benefits the people that live in the building, but that's not really true, especially if you're living in another high-rise or you're living up on the cliff. You're going to be looking down at a green roof. I mean, obviously, it depends on what height of the building is, but if you're talking about a high-rise structure can also have several heights to it. It could be a scalloped building. There could be different plazas and amenities in that building. Everyone assumes it's just like one stick like this, but there's many creative ways to be able to develop a high-rise structure, particularly if you have an open piece of land versus when you're in New York City and there's not really that open vista. You have buildings that get knocked down and then you have to put a building in its place. It's a lot different here. So the green roofs actually will benefit the residents in the surrounding communities. And that will also contribute to the environment, et cetera, et cetera.
Any further discussion?
20 years ago, you didn't have a density problem in Edgewater. You had a tax collection problem in Edgewater. You collected barely 74% of your taxes. Today, that's not the case anymore. Thanks to the previous administration who had vision, thanks to a couple of risk-taker developers, Edgewater is a community that thrives today, and we all enjoy living in this community. There is still a remnants of what Edgewater used to be in portions of this 4th district. Abandoned factories, abandoned warehouses, that's what it used to be. And there's still remnants of what Edgewater used to be 20 years ago. This is the last portion that we have to deal with. I think we need to put it behind us, look forward, and leave that portion of what Edgewater used to be in the past. We have plenty of evidence here in our own community that tells us what works and what does not work. We have plenty of evidence here. We've already seen it. And with that said, we'll come in, Captain, for some of the work that you've done here with us, and I look forward to years to come.
Any further discussion?
One other comment, that with all that development, Edgewater taxes are second from the bottom in northern Jersey towns, Bergen County apartments. So
Not the
it
right.
doesn't, it's not out of line at all.
Anyone else? Roll call.
Yeah.
An ordinance of the Borough of Edgewater County, Borough of State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing chapter 240 of the Borough Code to eliminate the B2A zone, create new MXD1, MXD2, and MXD3 zones, and to amend and supplement certain other regulations, including those provided for the R5 zone, is hereby adopted. Councilman Henwood?
Yes.
Councilman Doran? Councilman Monty? Oh, sorry. He recused himself. Councilman Vidal?
Yes.
Councilman Jordan?
Yes.
And Councilman Bartholomew?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I'd ask for a 5-minute recess.